So, Ghosted was directed by Dexter Fletcher, and it stars Chris Evans and Ana de Armas, and they're two single people who meet. She's a spy, he works at a farmer's market, and they meet, they start dating for a little bit, and then she starts ghosting him. And when he discovers that she's in another country, he goes over to that country, tracks her down, tries to figure out, hey, what's going on here? Why are you ghosting me? And he winds up being entangled in this whole mission that she's a part of, and that's the movie. So I remember hearing about this movie for a while now. It sounded like it was going to be a really big deal because Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson were going to be in it originally. And then Scarlett Johansson dropped out for various reasons, and she was replaced with Ana de Armas. They're reteaming from Knives Out, and I honestly kept forgetting this movie was even coming out. And eventually they released posters and like, oh, right, that's coming out, I guess. Well, didn't that seem like a big deal a long time ago? And yeah, for a moment it was. So I watched this movie a while ago, and this movie's not good. This movie is really not good. It's not fun. It's not funny. I just didn't care for this movie. Is there anything in this movie that worked? Well, admittedly, the chemistry between Chris Evans and Ana de Armas isn't too terrible. You know, a lot of the reviews I've seen, they criticize the chemistry as just being flat. Honestly, I kind of believed it, at least until, like, while they were first together, before all the stuff that happens, like, when Chris Evans goes to find her. I at least found it believable. I found their chemistry, like, their banter, really decent enough to go, okay, well, I can definitely see why there was a movie idea here. Now let's talk about the things I really didn't care for in this movie, and there was a lot. I didn't really care for a lot of the action. They cut around a lot of the action, which is weird because it's a movie that is streaming on Apple TV, and you know, you can kind of get away with a little bit more if you're on a streaming service, I feel like. And also, they kind of don't really make a whole lot of use of, like, the locations they're in. Like, they're in a bunch of different places all over the world, and they don't really do anything with them. They're just not that interesting. There is one that's kind of interesting, where it's, like, the climax of the movie. They're in this restaurant that, like, rotates in the sky, and it's like, okay, that could be really cool. That could be really interesting. Instead, the main thing is that people just get hurt while the restaurant is rotating. Okay, that's not funny. Especially when you do it over and over again. It's just not funny. And I feel like this movie just couldn't decide what it really wanted to be. It felt like it wanted to be a comedy, a romantic comedy specifically, an action movie. It's basically the same plot as that movie Night and Day with Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz. Admittedly, that's not a movie I really liked. I didn't really care for the characters or the action in that movie too much. But I would rather watch Night and Day again over Ghosted. This movie just couldn't decide what it wanted to be. It wasn't fun. It wasn't funny. A lot of the jokes just didn't work for me. And also what really didn't work for me was that Chris Evans' behavior is incredibly problematic. He has this whole thing where you know, he's single and he seems like desperately single, and it's just not funny. It's like, you look like Chris Evans, dude. How are you desperately single? I just didn't like it. I just didn't believe it. Also, I hated it when the main thing that kind of gets this plot going is that he finds out that this woman is in a completely different country. So he actually flies out to that country to ask her, hey, what's going on? If you didn't look like Chris Evans, you would be arrested, honestly. Like, holy shit. Like, how is that even possible? How is that even possible in a movie in 2023, like several years after the Me Too movement, has a plot point in the movie where a main character tracks down a woman he's attracted to and literally flies out to the country to try to ask her questions. How is that even possible? Also, I didn't really care for the cameos in this movie. There are a lot of cameos in this movie, surprisingly. Like around the halfway mark, I think even before the halfway mark, there's like a succession of cameos from people that Chris Evans has probably worked with in the past. It's like, oh, you're in this movie? Okay, let's see what you do. Oh, you're gone now. Oh, you're in this movie now too? Well, let's see what you do. Oh, they're gone now. Oh, let's see what you're doing in this movie. You're gone now too. And there's another cameo towards the end of the movie, and eventually they're gone too. They were just pointless cameos. It's like, why are they even in this movie? It just wasn't funny. It wasn't interesting. I'm like, that is so annoying. And you can definitely tell while watching this movie that it was written by 4 different people. Yeah, it was listed that 4 different people worked on this movie, and it feels like a Frankenstein movie at times. Like, there are plot points that are just dropped. Like, there's this whole plot point about Ana de Armas having a sister that betrayed her. Doesn't really add much to the story, but whatever. Pretty much everything in this movie just kind of fell flat. The cliches are boring. The action's boring. The comedy's not funny. The cameos are annoying. The behavior is problematic. and this movie is just not fun. It's just a drag. It's just a real drag. It's 2 hours long when it really should be an hour and a half. I felt like they're trying to take this material a little too seriously, but at the same time, trying to make it a romantic comedy, trying to make it an action movie, and I just want to forget this movie. I wish I could just ghost this movie. So Ghosted is not good. I'll give it 1 out of 4 stars. Skip it. So, what's your least favorite romantic comedy? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.